All right. Make way for the Lord Chancellor.
Dame Sue Carr to swear her oath of allegiance and judicial oath.
I, Sue Lascelles Carr, do swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, his heirs and successors according to law. I, Sue Lascelles Carr, do swear by Almighty God that I will well and truly serve our Sovereign King Charles III in the office of Lady Chief Justice of England and Wales. And I will do right to all manner of people after the laws and usages of this realm, without fear or favour, affection or ill will.
It is an honour and a privilege for us to have heard the oaths of Sue Lascelles Carr on her appointment as Lady Chief Justice of England and Wales. I want to be the first to congratulate her on behalf of all of you, on behalf of the entire judiciary and the legal professions of England and Wales on this momentous achievement. I will start, if I may, by welcoming Sue's husband, Alex Birch, her daughter, Emily, her sons, William and Ed, and her mother, Edda, her stepfather, Charles Harvey, and many other members of her family and friends. You are all more than welcome here at the Royal Courts of Justice. And those joining by live stream are also equally welcome. Sue's father is sadly not well enough to attend, but hopefully the proceedings will be relayed to him in due course. It will not surprise anyone to know that all the members of Sue's family have played a tremendous part in supporting her in her meteoric career. Without in any way undermining Sue's own considerable talents, her family bear a significant portion of the responsibility for her appointment today to the top job in the judiciary. More of that, if I may, in a moment. I am honoured and a little humbled to be giving this introductory address at what is a landmark in our national life. The ceremony may be familiar to many of you, but there is additional significance today. Sue is the first woman ever to have been appointed Chief Justice of England and Wales. That is in itself both remarkable and an achievement that should be celebrated. Sue will now always be first. In celebrating her appointment, though, we should be careful not to be complacent. A milestone, however notable, on a long road is not the end of a journey. Work remains for us all to make our judiciary as diverse and as inclusive as it should be. I can think of no better person to spearhead that task than our new Lady Chief Justice. I have no doubt that Sue will be a champion for equality, diversity, and inclusion in the judiciary and in the legal sector more generally. She will be an excellent role model for the lawyers and judges that follow her. And my hope is that when the time eventually comes, many years from now, for Sue's valedictory, the remarkable feature of today's ceremony will seem simply routine. I was struck when doing some research for this address by what Sue herself said about feminism. And I thought I would quote briefly her comments taken from an interview in 2020 for her old school, Wickham Abbey. To me, she said, feminism is having that true freedom of choice. Sometimes the burden of potential is a heavy one, and it's all too easy to go down a certain career path because it seems to be what is wanted of you. So perhaps you could be Prime Minister. But if actually you really want to be a painter or to teach riding and your circumstances permit it, then that is what you should do. From a personal point of view, having known Sue Carr for many years now, both at the bar and on the bench, I can say that she has practiced what she preached. Nobody has pushed her into today, even if she was, as I've said, encouraged and supported by her family. I'm sure that she is now taking on the job that she really wants to do. Let me say a little more, if I may, as criminal lawyers might say, about her history and antecedents. After Wickham Abbey, Sue went to Trinity College, Cambridge, to read French and German before switching to law after Part 1. And there she was taught by some of the great legal academics of that generation: Tony Weir, Gareth Jones, Conor Gearty, Chris Greenwood, and John Hopkins, to name but a few. She muses wistfully on what Tony Weir might have said had he lived long enough to see this day. Along the way, Sue earned 3 half blues for lacrosse and did much acting, debating, and sport. Her pupil supervisors were Mark Howard at Brick Court Chambers, and then Chris Gibson at what was then 2 Crown Office Row, but became 4 New Square, where Sue took up their offer of a tenancy. It was something of a surprise to Sue, at least when she was offered a pupillage at 2 Crown Office Row, because she was interviewed by Rupert Jackson and John Powell, as we lawyers know them of Jackson and Powell fame. Sue was asked what books on professional negligence she was aware of. She said, "Oh, I can't remember the name." It's a blue book with red lettering on the cover, and it's really good. She had no idea it was the authors who were interviewing her. Messrs. Jackson and Powell managed to control themselves until she closed the door behind her when she heard uproarious laughter from within. The rest, as one might say, is history. Sue went on to develop what we would now call a broad business and property courts practice, undertaking professional negligence, TCC, commercial, and some chancery work. She became president of the Professional Negligence Bar Association, head of chambers at 4 New Square, chair of the Bar Standards Board's Conduct Committee, and the Complaints Commissioner to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. I spent part of my summer holiday, and you'll think this rather sad, I'm afraid, dipping in to Lord Campbell's 3 volumes on the lives of the Chief Justices of England, written and published in the middle of the 19th century. The work is notable, perhaps, for dealing in meticulous detail with the discreditable activities of numerous justiciars and Chief Justices down the ages. Lord Campbell reserves praise for only a few: Sir Edward Coke, Sir Matthew Hale, Lord Mansfield, and Lord Ellenborough were most notable amongst those praised. But the same cannot be said for Lord Campbell's treatment of the likes of Sir William Scroggs and the infamous Sir George Jeffreys. I mention all this because it was plain to me from what I read that our justice system might have suffered a somewhat less turbulent time if it had considered the appointment of women judges and women chief justices a long time ago. So I'm sorry, Sue, for going on about the first woman thing, but I make no apology for celebrating the diversity of our era as compared to history. Let me return to the task of telling you a little more about our new Lady Chief Justice. Sue started her judicial career in 2009 when she was appointed as a criminal recorder. In 2013, she was appointed to the High Court bench, and in 2014, she was given tickets to sit in both the Commercial Court and the Technology and Construction Court. In 2020, she was appointed to the Court of Appeal, and also in 2020, she became Vice Chair of the Judicial Appointments Commission. In the Court of Appeal, as elsewhere, Sue has been a whirlwind, churning out excellent, often groundbreaking judgments in double-quick time, and putting her hand up for jobs that needed doing, whether glamorous or not. I've been extremely grateful personally for her sure-footed membership of numerous committees concerned with subjects as disparate as CE filing, appointments to the Solicitor's Disciplinary Tribunal, the Court of Appeal Standing Committee, and the Judiciary's new website. People say, if you need a job doing, ask a busy person. Within the judiciary, everybody always knew all you had actually to do was to ask Sue. So what will Sue's leadership of the judiciary be like? You're probably asking that question yourselves. I am sure that it will be like her judgments and her submissions at the bar: thoughtful, considered, and both incisive and decisive, but perhaps more even than that, the word I used earlier, groundbreaking. Sue's generosity and voracious capacity for hard work cannot be underestimated. She will work hard and lead from the front. She will not be pushed around. Sue is her own woman and will act according to what she knows to be right. What better foundation for the beginning of a new Chief Justice's period in office? I understand that Sue claims to be the 98th Chief Justice, as her predecessor, the Lord Burnett, claimed to be the 97th. I'm not so sure. Lord Campbell's Lives of the Chief Justices would have us believe that the first Chief Justiciar, as the Normans called them, and they created the post, so they should know, was Odo, appointed in 1066. And there have been many more than 98 justiciars and chief justices since 1066. But I don't want to get competitive. Sue will know that I only care about any of this because I claim to be the 98th Master of the Rolls, since John de Langton was appointed to the post on the 10th of May, 1286. I know precisely. We shall no doubt have time over the coming years, Sue, to resolve the question of whether there have been more Chief Justices than Masters of the Rolls. Lord Campbell has, though, left me in little doubt about whose predecessors were most disreputable. Let me be serious for a moment. I know that Sue's appointment has been welcomed at all levels of the judiciary. I want to assure her that she will be supported through thick and thin by all her colleagues. She has taken on a tough job. There will be hard times as well as good, but I'm sure she will do it brilliantly. The qualities that I've mentioned will enable her to deal with the massive workload whilst at the same time contributing hugely to the jurisprudence of the English common law. More than this, I know, as is so important, that she will work effectively with the Lord Chancellor, Alex Chalk, and with all of the many organs of government with whom she will deal. I know that she will support and respect each and every one of the members of the judiciary that she leads. She will be fearless in protecting the independence of the judiciary and the rule of law. May I then end this introduction by congratulating Lady Chief Justice Carr on her appointment and on taking her oaths of office. And may I wish her well in her tenure as the 98th Chief Justice of England and Wales, and perhaps most of all, wish her the very best of British luck.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you.
Lord Chancellor.
It is my very great pleasure to welcome Dame Sue, or should I now say Lady Carr, and to do so on behalf of parliamentarians from all sides of both Houses of Parliament.
Thank you.
Lord Burnett, I barely remember him now, but Lord Burnett, he helpfully pointed out at my own swearing-in ceremony that I was the 7th Lord Chancellor of his tenure. So I think it only fair to mention that not 6 months into the job, and I'm already on to my second. We really are getting through. I offer Lady Carr my warmest congratulations. To take up this position is an enormous personal achievement, and I have no doubt that her family are proud. They should know they are responsible too. As the Master of the Rolls has set out so eloquently, Lady Carr is eminently qualified to lead our justice system. Throughout her distinguished career, she has demonstrated the highest ability and acquired exceptional breadth and depth of experience across many areas of the law. Amongst so much high and worthy achievement, I was pleased to discover we are both veterans of the Bar Theatrical Society. She joined the Court of Appeal, I joined the circus. Now, you need focus and commitment for this job, and in preparing these words, I discovered that Lady Carr's pursuit of justice never lets up, even for a moment. As newly appointed JAC Vice Chair, as was indicated by Sir Geoffrey a few moments ago, during the pandemic, I'm told that at the online murder mystery Christmas party, her cross-examination of witnesses was thorough and exacting. I understand terrifying was the actual word. But I note too her broader commitment to making a contribution to society. As she has said herself, the further up the chain you go, the greater the opportunity to help others. She's worked with young people, encouraging and inspiring them to pursue careers in the law, somehow finding the time to do so while sitting in the Court of Appeal. I thank her for her support of the Calisher Trust, a charity that works with young and aspiring advocates from deprived backgrounds. Of course, in welcoming Lady Carr, we must also bid farewell to Lord Burnett. His stewardship of our justice system these last 6 years has been so distinguished, so too his contribution to law across a career of more than 4 decades. This is, of course, a moment of change, but just as importantly, it is a moment of continuity too. Continuity of the principles and values that underpin our free, fair, and prosperous society. Access to justice, independence of the judiciary, and the right to a fair trial. This Lady Chief Justice, Lady Carr, will uphold them all.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you.
Madam Attorney.
Lady Chief Justice, my lords and ladies, distinguished guests. In a recent interview, Sue was asked for her heroes. She named 2, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, US Supreme Court Justice, and Elsie Bowerman, the suffragette who survived the Titanic, witnessed the Russian Revolution, and was the first woman barrister to appear at the Old Bailey. It's fair to say that today Sue is blazing a trail of her own. It gives me real pleasure to use the term Lady Chief Justice. When I was called to the bar almost 30 years ago, there were very few women pupils, no senior women in chambers, and a handful of women in the senior judiciary. Sue's cohort, a few years ahead of me, were real role models. They still are. Sue was born in 1964 and from the beginning threw herself at all aspects of life. Then as now, she worked hard and gave everything a go: lacrosse, piano, debating, acting and viola. She chose the viola because she worked out that by so doing, she'd maximise her chances of getting into the school orchestra. Sue's love of acting and music continue. In fact, Sue seems to have played almost every Shakespearean character, from Lady Macbeth to Juliet's nurse, both Lysander and Helena, though fortunately not in the same production. Sue also sings with enthusiasm, not least in the Bar Choral Society. One of the greatest reactions to her appointment was a fellow alto from the BBC Symphony Orchestra, tweeting, "Altos rule the world." I couldn't agree more. Sue's early academic achievements, though, did not meet universal praise. Her German grandparents were very keen to be supportive, but really thought that a woman's place was in the home. So Omi and Opa wanted to recognise each new prize and award with an encouraging gift. They did so with a saucepan. Sue built up a veritable batterie de cuisine. Called to the bar in 1987, Sue practiced in commercial law, specialising in professional liability and insurance. She was a tenant at 4 New Square, where she became head of chambers in 2012. The first time Sue was led in the Court of Appeal, she was asked, after her leader sat down, whether she wished to follow. She wasn't sure what to do. 2 versions of the story have been relayed to me. By one retelling, Sue shook her head so vigorously that the wig came off and landed in the court clerk's lap, or, in the alternative, Sue politely thanked the court for asking and explained that she endorsed what Rupert said, and she'd followed most of it, but there were a couple of tricky areas which she was less convinced by. Sue quickly found her voice and was a formidable advocate, taking silk at 39. In a case in the commercial court before the now Chancellor, Sue was acting for the defendant who was being sued by a large pharma company. Her cross-examination was so brilliant that not only was the claimant's factual case demolished, but one of the grounds of appeal was that Sue's cross-examination was simply too good. She became chair of the Professional Negligence Bar Association, chair of the Bar Standards Board Conduct Committee, complaints commissioner to the International Criminal Court at The Hague. She was appointed a High Court judge and then presiding judge on the Midland Circuit until 2020, when she joined the Court of Appeal. Sue has spoken about the importance of everyone who comes before the court being treated fairly, respectfully, and impartially. In her courtroom, Sue has shown wisdom and ability and her complete dedication to the rule of law. Her judgments are second to none. I know that Sue's energy and dedication will be channeled into leading the judiciary and reflecting their views to Parliament and to government. Sue had 4 career ambitions as a small child. To be a lawyer, well, yes. An actress, definitely. An air hostess and an interpreter in The Hague. Sue is an excellent linguist, speaking both French and German. Shortly before she went on the bench, she accepted a brief to prosecute at The Hague. Not directly in her practice area, but Sue doesn't shy away from a challenge. The proceedings were also in French. Well, she didn't shy away from that either and got on with it in French. I have absolutely no doubt that airlines will be queuing up to recruit her on her retirement. Sue is married to Alexander Birch. Alex read law at Cambridge, but since then his major contribution to the law has been using his corporate strategy skills and the diplomatic skills he learnt in the cradle to help Sue manage the household and bring up Emily, William, and Ed. I know that Sue is grateful for the sacrifices Alex has made for her career, but she's also proud that they have both worked in fulfilling careers while looking after their children. In fact, at every point in her career, Sue has promoted this sort of balance. A week after she was elected head of chambers, she sent an email which emphasised that professional success is not just to be measured by the size of the practice or the brief fee, but involves each person finding the balance between work and real life which suits them, and that all are to be equally valued. This was revolutionary for chambers and encouraged those who had felt on the periphery because they didn't have the best practices. Sue was recently asked what advice she would give her 15-year-old self, and she said, "Life is a marathon and not a sprint. As Lady Chief Justice, the course will be long, the hills steep, and the challenge is great. With her energy, dedication, practicality, talent, and integrity, Sue will make an excellent Lady Chief Justice. I have every faith she will have a fantastic run."
Mr. Vineall.
My Lord, Lady Chief Justice, Lord Chancellor, my Lords, Ladies, Madam Attorney, Madam President, distinguished guests. It is a pleasure and a privilege to speak on behalf of the Bar of England and Wales and to welcome and congratulate you on your appointment as Lady Chief Justice of England and Wales. The office hitherto known as Lord Chief Justice of England and Wales has a long history, which can be traced back at least to the end of the 13th century, when the title Lord Chief Justice, full stop, was given to the senior judge of the Court of the King's or Queen's Bench, full stop. That was but one of the three common law high courts, the others being the Court of Common Pleas and the Court of Exchequer. I'll come back to that in a moment. In the 14th century, Lord Chief Justices came and went with alarming frequency, no departure being more alarming than that of Sir John de Cavendish, murdered in the Peasants' Revolt by, some say, associates of Jack Straw. Historians believe that this Jack Straw may or may not in fact have existed, but for the avoidance of any possible doubt, I ought to make plain that on any view, this was not the same Jack Straw who rather later became Lord Chancellor. A major change to the office of Lord Chief Justice came towards the end of the 19th century with the Judicature Acts. The three separate common law courts became divisions of the new single High Court in 1875. But that produced a problem: how to deal with the relative seniority of the three heads of these divisions. And surely the High Court did not need quite so many divisions. It must have been somebody who was both diplomatic and patient who engineered the solution. It just so happened that in 1880, two of the three senior judges died. It was at this opportune moment that it was decided to merge the three divisions into a single division, the Queen's Bench Division, with the surviving judge, Lord Coleridge, who had been Chief Justice of the Court of Common Pleas, becoming the first Lord Chief Justice of England. An overdue change came in 1996, when the position was first styled Lord Chief Justice of England and Wales. But perhaps the most significant change of all came in 2005, when the Constitutional Reform Act destroyed the historic position of Lord Chancellor and created a new, important, but nevertheless very different post with, somewhat confusingly, the same name. The Lord Chancellor's judicial functions having been removed, Under the Constitutional Reform Act, the Lord Chief Justice became the head of the judiciary of England and Wales and the President of the Courts of England and Wales. And reflecting that, the post was invested with a specific statutory power to lay before Parliament written representations on matters appearing to you to be of importance relating to the judiciary or to the administration of justice. That power has been used to lay annual reports before Parliament, but not, as yet, for other purposes. So the position has evolved over time. Meanwhile, the bar has done some evolving too. Helena Normanton, called in 1921, was the first woman to practice as a barrister. In 1949, she and Rose Halbrun were the first women to be appointed King's Counsel. My lady, in 1987, when you were called to the bar, 20% of the practicing bar were women. When you took silk in 2003, the figure was 32%. Today, it is 40%. The constitutional importance of the post of Lady Chief Justice cannot be overstated. The challenges involved cannot be overstated. The virtues of patience and diplomacy that have moulded the position are no less important in the discharge of its responsibilities. My lady, your purely judicial functions will always be exercised in public, but much of your immense influence will be wielded, and wielded most effectively, in private. And there will always be a gap between the level of activity the media would like to see from the Lady Chief Justice and what is wise or even appropriate for the Lady Chief Justice to undertake. And all the while, because you are the first Lady Chief Justice, and because you have been appointed by a system which, by statute, selects solely on merit, you will be an unprecedented role model for all of those who are starting their career at the bar, including, but not limited to, the 51% of the present cohort of those starting practice who are women. My lady at the bar, we know that you will fulfill this role with distinction, and as a profession, we stand ready to do all that we can ever appropriately do to assist you and the judiciary you lead in your task of doing justice and upholding the rule of law.
Shuja.
Lady Chief Justice, Lord Chancellor, Attorney General, Chair of the Bar, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. In my role as President of the Law Society of England and Wales, on behalf of the solicitor's profession, I have the very special honour and privilege to welcome you, Dame Sue Carr, to your new position as Lady Chief Justice. Today is a historic and important day for progress in the legal profession, a proud moment for everyone who works in the justice system. The inauguration of the first Lady Chief Justice is very significant. It shows that although we have a way to go, our profession is moving in the right direction, and under your leadership will continue to do so. I started my career over 30 years ago. To become the first Asian, first Muslim, and only the 7th female president of the Law Society has been a huge opportunity, but also a huge responsibility. It will be even more so for you, and I cannot tell you how delighted I am to be the incoming president to welcome you to your role. Your inauguration today is crucial. It shows members of the legal profession from all backgrounds that they can aspire to hold the very highest office. Representation inspires change. Not long ago, we celebrated 100 years since the first women entered the legal profession. Now, we are celebrating the first woman to ascend all the way to the very pinnacle of our legal system. And I hope you are the first of very many more. As we all know, the justice system is fundamental to this country. Like everyone here today, you have dedicated your working life to upholding the rule of law. The English and Welsh justice system's ideals are critical to our status as a thriving and prosperous democracy. The rule of law must be upheld and respected, and I know that these core values will underpin every decision you make, Lady Chief Justice. Our judicial system is renowned worldwide. The reputation of English law is built on centuries of practice, knowledge, and implementation. We are the global jurisdiction of choice and a sector which carries enormous economic weight. I have no doubt that under your leadership, we are in safe hands. I look forward to working closely with you to ensure we maintain and strengthen our expert judiciary and our world-leading justice system. I am sure that this next step into the highest judicial office will prove busy, challenging, and fulfilling. May I again warmly welcome you to your new position and congratulate you. On behalf of the Law Society and all of our members, I wish you the very best of luck.
This should be recorded in the books of the King's Remembrancer.
So be it. And before we rise from this short ceremony, we will make sure that the new Lady Chief Justice receives her letters patent afterwards. I promise I'm not going to hang on to them.
All rise.